Now on Talking Solutions, welcome back one of our favorites here on the show, Erin Breen from the Vulnerable Road Users Project.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
Erin, I wish I could say that the reason why you haven't been in is because pedestrian safety is no longer an issue here in the Valley.
Yeah, I wish we could say that too.
I'd like to just shut this whole thing down.
Yeah, not bragging because it still wasn't great news, but 2018 was much better than 2017. But 2019 has started off with horrific numbers.
I heard about the 2017 numbers that 100 pedestrians killed that year.
That was the official number for the state of Nevada. Each state collects data on guidelines established by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration so that we're talking apples to apples. And in the national database, if you die 31 days after being in any kind of a crash, you don't get counted as a traffic fatality. Oh. So the 100 official number was actually much worse than 100 because, a lot of people live for 32 days or 64 days, whatever it might be. My contention has always been if you didn't get in the crash to start with, you wouldn't have died, So the official number's bad enough, but the actual number was even worse. And we don't count you on private property. Isn't that terrible? So, yeah, we have a big problem. And here we are, the beginning of the year, and like a rocket. Vulnerable road users. We've had 3 bike fatalities. We've had 6 pedestrian fatalities and several motorcycles. That is not the majority of the road users. And if vulnerable road user safety is not on your radar, you really don't pay a lot of attention. You pay attention to the mode of travel that you use.
All about me.
Well, yes.
That's what drivers are thinking. I'm in a hurry. I got to get here. Yep. I got to go now.
That's that nasty little human trait, But the other nasty little human trait is we all take the path that is the easiest, and it causes us to do crazy things.
I can't imagine how a person that strikes someone while they're driving and injures or kills them, how do you ever recover from that? How do you ever mentally get over it?
Terry, I tell people all the time, when we look at pedestrian data, when we look at just straight crashes, so pedestrian crashes, half the time it's the driver's fault, half the time it's the pedestrian's fault. When we look at fatal crashes, and I wish I didn't have to say this, but I do, 3/4 of the time it's the pedestrian's fault. They're crossing most often where they don't belong on a dark street, wearing dark clothing, and drivers never see them. But I also try to impart to drivers that just because it's not your fault doesn't mean you'll say, oh, well, that was a bad day. No, I've met way too many drivers that it ruins their lives. And I guess the biggest news is that we allow people to drive in a manner that could put you in that position all the time. So I teach this class, if you get a ticket, either as a pedestrian or as a driver who violates a pedestrian law in Clark County, and you go to Justice Court, they give you the opportunity to have your fines and fees waived, but I get 3 hours of your time. So this is the most shocking thing to drivers when I say, if you drive a Mercedes-Benz that has the best headlights on the market, it illuminates 175 feet in front of your car. Average posted speed limit in Clark County is 40 miles an hour. So at 40 miles an hour, you're traveling 66 feet per second, and the average reaction time is 2.5 seconds. So you've eaten up that 175 feet in front of your car by the time you react. So the reality is, it's called overdriving your headlights, meaning you can't see in time enough to be able to stop for it. And my opinion is that we set drivers up to be in the position of taking a life.
Well, and from the perspective of the driver's not helping either. Because I've said many times when we've been in this studio before that the posted speed limit, which already is high enough, is only a suggested starting point.
Well, that is indicative of something that I'd love to spend a couple minutes talking about, and that is, contrary to what people believe, we need more cops. And the reality is that police officers go crash to crash to crash responding, and they don't have time to get out and do that all-important education. And so we have slipped into this mode where drivers feel, and I wish I could say they're wrong, but they feel like if I'm only going 10 over, they're not going to stop me because while they have me stopped on the side of the road, 30 over is going to blow past them. And you can see the logic in that. And unfortunately, so can drivers. We have a fast environment in our town. We've built it fast. People travel on it faster than what's posted, especially in urbanized Clark County. City of Las Vegas is doing some innovative things. Henderson is doing some innovative things to literally force cars to slow down. And I think if we compare critical and fatal crashes from one to the other, you're going to see that there's a difference.
That it does matter that they take these steps.
Yes.
When you talk about the fact that it would be great to have more police officers to help enforce our traffic rules, let me get on my soapbox for just a second. Running red lights. I just get so angry because I'll be driving somewhere, usually on Durango, and I'll be stopped at a light because the light's turning and I see somebody blow past me. I'm
accelerating.
Like, how can you do this? You now are risking lives of the people that are trying to legally take advantage of the green lights going the other direction.
Right.
People get killed.
Well, and it's not the idiot that's blowing the light that gets killed. It's the innocent person that's just taking off. And that's that physics lesson. So the inertia is on the side of the person who not only is blowing that light, but they're accelerating through that light. They're going much faster than the person who's just taking off. And if you live in this town and you drive in this town and you take off on any green light without looking to the left, it could be your life. We have a terrible red light running problem. There's a bill going to be introduced in the legislature again. We haven't tried in several sessions, but they're going to try to get the ban on photo enforcement lifted and the enabling language established, not to mandate it, but to allow entities to try it if they would like to.
If you think it would make a difference.
And we know it would make a difference.
And you know people are going to object to it. It's like, oh, you don't have the right to do it. Well, you know what? You don't have the right to run a red light and kill somebody.
Get government out of my car. They're all going to be up in arms. But you're right. If you were the person whose loved one died because someone with every ability to stop their car chose not to because they were more important and they critically injured someone, changed their life forever, or took their life, you would feel differently about photo enforcement.
Erin Breen is with us today on Talking Solutions from the Vulnerable Road Users Project. Erin is always our favorite guest to talk about the very important topic of pedestrian safety, which is a huge issue here. You know, Erin, my husband, actually does traffic reporting for another couple radio stations here in town. And he's always been careful by nature anyway. But I think the fact that he has to report on things, he always reminds me, and we always say to each other, be careful. Everybody who sees me here at work when they leave for the day, the last thing I say to them is, be careful. When my guests leave downstairs after they've been in studio with me for the show, I say, be careful. And I also remind them, it's not you. There's a lot of idiots out there. Right. You have to watch for the other people on the road.
That's so true. That's so true. And we've been trying to get people away from the vernacular of saying someone was in an accident and to use the word crash, not because, of any ulterior motive other than literally trying to change your mindset, because crashes are not accidents. One of the parties does something that leads to that crash happening. And, when I say to people, it can be as dumb as not having enough air in your tires. If you don't know what to do when you have a blowout in your car and you don't know how to drive, well, you're a crash waiting to happen that could take someone else's life or your own. If you're driving without the benefit of that crazy little seatbelt in your car, people think it only has to do with themselves. But your ability to control the vehicle lies with if you're firmly in your seat. If you have to swerve for a reason and you're not belted and you go flying across the seat, now it's my problem if I'm driving next to you. So maybe 1% or less of crashes are actually accidents, which we would consider like, act of God kind of thing. And so we're trying to change people's thought process and understand that this does have something to do with me, and it might not be my fault. But the other thing that people do is they drive to the hood of their car. When, a fatal investigator, one of my favorite people in the whole world, doing a lecture to a group of teachers who were teaching kids their 30-hour driver safety course. And he asked this whole room of professionals, so what are the two things that'll save your life? And everybody does the same thing. We talk about seatbelts. We talk about don't drink and drive. We talk about put your cell phone away. And while all of those are good traffic safety behaviors, the two things that will save your life are time and distance. And it's the not getting in the crash. So if you have enough time to react and distance to stop, you avoid the crash. And the only way you get that is by watching well downstream, which gets more and more difficult all the time because if you're in a standard-sized car and there's a city on wheels in front of you, it's difficult to see, 6 or 7 car lengths in front of you.
Sure.
But you got to be able to see what you're going to have to react to. And it doesn't matter what kind of road user you are. If you're a pedestrian, a bicyclist, a motorcyclist, or a driver, time and distance is what's going to save your life. And the number one way we get that is by being realistic and giving ourselves enough time to get where we're going. So we're not tempted to do stupid things like blow red lights when we have plenty of time to stop for them. As a society, all you have to do is be driving down any street that you're used to driving on. If there's a police officer anywhere in the vicinity, you will feel it. You'll be going, what's the difference on this road? And usually what you're saying is, why are people going the speed limit? This is nuts.
Oh, what is this all about? Speed limit.
And then sure enough, there's a police officer. So we know that we're breaking the law. We choose to do it.
Erin, you grew up here in Las Vegas. I've been in town for nearly 27 years. And just during the time that I've been part of Las Vegas, the growth is crazy.
It is crazy.
I mean, in a good way. I
Right,
like
it's a
it.
good thing, yeah.
But when I first got here to drive to the other side of town, a 20-minute estimate was a real thing. Well, this many years down the road, and that was the summer that Clark County was just approaching 1 million.
Yeah.
Now we're going on, 3? We're getting ready. And as we keep growing and growing and growing, people are still saying, I got to get across town. I got 20 minutes.
Yep.
Okay, the 20 minutes that was an issue that worked,
Yeah.
it worked back then.
Get you a mile, maybe.
It doesn't work now.
No. And we could talk forever about this subject. People refusing to give up their single occupant vehicles are the biggest culprit in that. And we can't just keep building our way out of growth. Growth is a good thing. Urban sprawl, maybe not so much. And we're running out of land to keep spreading out. We're going to have to start rehabbing and going up. But if people continue to want to drive themselves everywhere, we just can't keep building the way that we have. So Project Neon is going to wrap up in July. How long will it be till it's at capacity? You remember when 95 was first finished and it was like, oh, this is so awesome.
It's been widened. It's so much better.
Yes, and now there's a traffic jam there every day. We've got to do more to get people out of their cars, and that's why this whole pedestrian issue is so important. It's better for your health. It's better for the environment. It's better for everyone. It's better for your mental health. Yet, if you turn on the news and the lead story on the news is the latest person that died on the sidewalk, in a crosswalk, or crossing somewhere where there was no crosswalk in a reasonable distance. And that's the other thing that we have not kept up with, is the whole vision of how we build our roads, and that we don't give pedestrians enough places to cross the street. And the limited places that we do give them, drivers aren't used to seeing. Whereas if we gave people more reasonable spacing to cross the street, drivers would get used to seeing that and understanding their responsibility is to look and see if there's someone waiting to cross the street and stop for them. It's such a simple concept. We just don't seem to get it.
Well, we're going on these roads where the speed limits are already generous, should I say.
Yeah.
So we're going at a pretty good clip. Most people that I see, I'm not going to say some, most people that I see are going faster than that.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, there's all these different visual things we need to be looking at. And as a defensive driver, we're looking ahead of where we are. But are you also looking on the sides where the crosswalks are coming into view and the people who are in vain trying to get across the road?
Right.
And so they're waiting there. This past weekend, the crashes that I heard about, there was and I'm going to say young woman, I want to say she was 27, in a wheelchair in a crosswalk in downtown. She was hit and killed by a bus.
Yeah, haven't heard the whole story on that. As a pedestrian advocate, of course, I want her to have been doing the right thing. I do know that she was in a crosswalk. Bus drivers are so well trained. I keep thinking there's going to be more to this story. But the reality is, for any driver, we're seeing a big increase in people in motorized scooters, wheelchairs to start with. Mm-hmm. And what drivers are failing to understand is that they're lower to the ground, so they're not in your actual view as you're looking out the windshield of your car, much like children are not. So you can't just look straight ahead. You have to look down. You have to look side to side. Anytime you're approaching any intersection, whether it be a signalized intersection, just where streets bisect each other, the first thing to understand is there doesn't have to be a painted crosswalk. Anywhere two roads cross each other, the pedestrian has the legal superior right of way. And if you have time to stop for them by law, you have to stop for them. But if you're not looking for them and you blow right past them, and that happens time after time, you wind up with situations like what happened with this, and I'll say young woman as well. But you also wind up with the thought process as the pedestrian of why walk out of my way to be predictable and cross where I'm supposed to, because no one's going to stop for me anyway. So I might as well cross here where it's easier for me, where I don't have to go out of my way. We've created this whole free-for-all, and the fatalities, unfortunately, are a result. Wide, no places to cross. Mm-hmm. At nighttime, 80% of our pedestrian fatalities happen when it's dark. It's not against the law to dress like I'm dressed today, but you wouldn't see me at night.
And you're wearing a red shirt.
I was going to say, people might think that they would be seen because I am wearing a red shirt. Red at night, it's the same as black. So you got to light yourself up if you're the pedestrian. And as a driver, you've got to watch for people. To say I didn't see them does not give you general absolution. They don't go, oh, okay,
things.
We understand you didn't see them. No, it's your job to see them. Here's another thing that I shock drivers with. The faster you travel, the narrower your field of vision. So at 30 miles an hour, your vision picks up what is there to be seen, but that's where it starts to narrow at 30. So by 45 miles an hour, and there's no way for you to test this because your brain won't allow it, but research shows at 45 miles an hour, you're not picking up the outside lanes, let alone the person waiting on the sidewalk to cross the street. So when drivers say I didn't see them, they're telling the truth. They didn't, because they were going fast enough that their brain, in order to focus on what they were doing, took out all this stuff on the side and narrowed down your field of vision. But yet we allow people to travel these crazy speeds.
Because we don't think. We just get in the car and drive. Yeah. When we were talking about the young woman in the wheelchair, I'd also like to point out that, yes, they're lower to the ground. Also, they're at a slower speed because of the wheelchair or the scooter, and they can't run from you.
That's true. There is no maneuvering out of the way. And it would be a terrible day to hit someone, but to hit someone knowing that they had no way to get out of your way. And here's the bottom line. They shouldn't have to get out of your way. If they're doing the right thing, which also includes, as a pedestrian waiting to cross, no matter how you're crossing, you've also got to understand how long it takes a car to stop. Pedestrians need to be realistic that on the streets like we have, at the speeds that people are going, they need a football field's distance. So once they can see you, that whole stopping factor, cars don't stop on a dime. So I always tell people, if you see headlights at night, stay where you are. Don't try to cross the street, and never assume that a driver saw you and that they're going to let you go. Even on a green light, if you're at a signalized intersection waiting to cross the street and the walk dude comes up in the ped head, never assume that there's any magic there. You got to look to your left and make sure, A, that no one's going to blow the red light, because that person for sure is going to take your life, and B, that right-hand turning driver understands that they don't get to turn right until you've made it to the center line. So that right-hand turning driver on some of our streets, you can make that right-hand turn at such a high rate of speed, you can easily kill someone.
Yeah, and I've seen people make that turn fast.
Yep.
Fortunately, there was not someone in their path. I would not have even wanted to witness it.
Right, no. And I think pedestrians are far too wary. It's good for them, but it's sad that they're so aware that right-hand turning driver could take their life.
Well, the difficulty for pedestrians to safely navigate our community in the streets and the crosswalks is almost like we're putting a damper on the idea that you should be outside and navigating by foot and getting somewhere on your own power. But I've thought, gosh, if I could just give them all lighted vests that flash. And if I could just make all the crosswalks have a little button that you could push that would make the signals start to flash. And I know that those are in some places, but not everywhere. And I know that's not going to change.
You're right, and we need more of them because those are so effective. And they're not very expensive. On a street like Durango, they're expensive because they can't just put them on the sides of the street and in the center. They've got to come out overhead. So you're still using those big mast arms. That's where the expense comes in. But those LED little flasher lights, the wig-wag ones that we've had for so long, the wah-wah on-off ones, your brain is so used to those that they don't really register in your brain. But those new little LED, when they first came out, they called them a stutter flash. I think that's very descriptive, and they're never the same. So your brain never gets used to seeing them. And they're so bright that you can see them from far away. So I hate to say this out loud because I always say it's tempting the fates, but fatalities on Boulder Highway were down last year.
Well, they've been working
Thank
on
God.
it.
Yeah, exactly. So the most notorious crosswalk in all of Nevada was the one at Boulder Highway in Sun Valley, which is that little crosswalk in front of the East Side Cannery. Far and away the deadliest spot for pedestrians and also for people in cars. There were quite a few people over the years that had been killed in that intersection. So NDOT put in the flashers, closed off the left turns, and put in that median, we call it the Danish offset, where it forces the pedestrian to turn in the center island and face traffic to try to get you to make eye contact with drivers.
Right.
So this is the part that I hate to say out loud, but no one's been killed there since. That alone was responsible for the reduction in fatalities on Boulder Highway. 8 more of those are coming before the end of the year. And a whole group of people funded by the Nevada Department of Transportation and the Southern Nevada Regional Transportation Commission, the RTC and NDOT got together, funded this huge project. It's called Reimagine Boulder Highway.
I think I've gotten emails or something,
so
or
awesome.
Facebook, or both.
Really exciting things are happening in our community. Right now, if you have an opinion, the RTC is seeking, you think I worked for them, huh? The RTC is seeking opinions for people on Maryland Parkway. Right now is the open comment period for the potential of what's going to happen on Maryland Parkway. They're asking your opinion, how you feel about light rail, how you feel about streetcars, and how you feel about bus rapid transit. Research shows that the redevelopment comes in when it's steel rail because it's not going anywhere. You don't get that redevelopment bump when it's just rubber tires because developers go, well, yeah, but you could change it at any time. Steel rail, that's a commitment. It would completely redo that area, would actually get people out of their cars. It's really an exciting project, and I shouldn't be tainting people by my personal opinion, but you could go to the RTC's website, which I want to say is rtcsnv.com. I think I'm right on that. Enter Maryland Parkway. That survey will come up, and give them your opinion. Let them know how you feel about it. I already did.
You know that I'll have all the links and everything on the Talking Solutions Facebook page, along with a podcast of our discussion today. It's Erin Breen from the Vulnerable Road Users Project. The stuff that you're talking about with Maryland Parkway, that's pretty exciting because there's already an adjustment. It's a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit through there, if I recall.
Not that people travel it, but
yeah,
yes,
right. Well, you better, because right in front of UNLV, there are multiple crosswalks that are well used, and students, they're going to go where they need to go. And there's some flashing lights and things to warn you of what's ahead. So I do see that the changes in the roadway have helped on Maryland Parkway. But
absolutely.
All of these things, like you mentioned, Erin, the light rail, they're talking about reconfiguring a lot of stuff. And you've got UNLV there, Boulevard Mall, farther to the north on the other side. There's a lot of activity on Maryland Parkway that can substantially benefit. And then after that, Sunrise Hospital.
It's the perfect corridor. It really is. And the way that this is planned is from the airport. So it's from the T3 terminal right there at Russell in Maryland Parkway, down Maryland to downtown. So it would hook in all the downtown business from the airport. And then from the Bonneville Transit Center downtown, it would go up Charleston to the medical district. So you're hooking UNLV University and UNLV Med School and anybody who had doctor's appointments, whether it be Sunrise Hospital or up to Valley or UMC or any of those hospitals. So it really makes sense for that to be the route that they try first. There's exciting things happening here. I listened to Steve Hill at a meeting last week talking about solutions for moving traffic on Las Vegas Boulevard. And as a community, if we don't do something about moving people better in our resort corridor, and these are people that have come from all over the world, from communities that have amazing transit systems. Eventually they're going to say, well, yeah, I love Vegas, but it's really hard to get around there. We can't let that happen. So I think the stuff that Steve Hill was talking about is pretty exciting. And RTC, again, had an amazing project along with the Convention and Visitors Authority to look at long-term solutions for the resort area, downtown and the Strip. There was a whole lot of projects that came out of that when they start happening, it's just an exciting time to be here, period. And then you have all the autonomous vehicles.
That's it, the technology.
People think that I wouldn't like autonomous vehicles. I love them. I don't think that they're the solution for pedestrian safety because there's still a human being involved that makes bad decisions sometimes. And it doesn't matter if it's a computerized car, there's still that whole stopping distance and reaction. So is it going to help? Yes. But it's going to revolutionize other parts of traffic safety.
All the technology, which is exciting. And of course, every year with CES, they've got all these cutting edge products that are just being unveiled. We see amazing things here.
We do.
And we've got this burgeoning community that just keeps growing.
So City of Las Vegas, there's that whole downtown area, the Innovation District. If you're not aware of it, just go educate yourself. For sure, on a First Friday, you could find lots of people that could tell you. But if you have a car that interacts with you, there's all kinds of things happening in that downtown area that has to do with technology in all different kinds of ways, including transportation. So it's such an exciting time. And I got to give a shout out to City of Las Vegas for that whole downtown redevelop, because what they did with Main Street and Commerce and all the other projects that are still happening, they made it truly walkable. It was a good footprint to start with, but the improvements that they made, it's just, I don't know about you, you've lived here years. Growing up in Las Vegas, downtown was the only place, and it was our playground as kids.
Right.
But it's so exciting to me to see downtown Las Vegas come back to life. I love being downtown, and then walking downtown is awesome, and it's the little microcosm. And if I would be so envious if you live in an area and you go experience downtown, my hope is that you would walk away saying, I want my area where I frequent the most to be just like that, because that appeals to all of your senses. It appeals to your better self, really. Getting around is easy, and people are friendlier. That's the result. We get out of our rush, and enjoy each other. Everyone should want their neighborhood to look like that.
The bicycle loaner program that they have with the RTC down there.
Yeah. It's so well used. Over 1 million people a year are using rideshare and bike share. They have the downtown loop where you can get on and off that bus for free. You know, the little pink 30-seater or whatever it is. And it circulates all around the whole downtown area, including the mall. And they're doing things that are happening in other areas of the world that we're finally catching up with.
We started talking about pedestrian safety with Erin Breen. The innovation's all really exciting. I want to come back also to our personal responsibility as drivers. I don't want to forget that the reason for us talking is the fact that all these pedestrians are still getting killed on our roads. Years ago, I said, you all stop calling when it's no longer an issue. And sadly, it's still an issue.
Yeah.
As far as what we can do as drivers.
Well, I say all the time to people who will listen, our roads are too fast. If we were to slow down our roads, and you can't just do it by putting up a new speed limit, because it doesn't work, because our roads are built for speed. So literally there's some money involved in getting our roads to a place where people don't feel comfortable going the speeds that they're going. It's not an easy solution. Baby steps. City of Las Vegas has already started it. There's a program we've been touting called Vision Zero. I hope that I'm going to come back and talk to you about having a big launch for Vision Zero that really looks at how we build our roads. It came out of Sweden. Their fatality numbers used to be as bad as ours. Theirs are less than a tenth now of what ours are, all over Europe. And now it's spreading to the United States. So there's 34 cities now that have become Vision Zero cities. New York City, being the leader of them all, posted their lowest pedestrian fatality numbers since they started keeping records last year. But in the city of Manhattan, there's no speed limit over 25 miles an hour. And that scares the hell out of people in this town. But the reality is, and they have a lot of things that we don't have, but I have long contended that signal timing could be better with slower speeds, and that you really wouldn't get where you're going in any less time, but for sure you would get there a lot safer, no matter what kind of road user you are. I'm a broken record about speed, but But it's not just to pedestrians or bicyclists or motorcyclists. You are the most likely to die in Clark County if you're in a car crash on an arterial road. People think it's the freeway. It is not the freeway. It is Flamingo Road, Tropicana, Charleston, Sahara. Sahara was the number one overall fatality road last year. And yes, there's long stretches of road, but Sahara was number one. Flamingo was number two. Flamingo was the worst last year for pedestrians and for bicyclists. And we track these kind of things. So what I can tell you is very few of them are north-south streets. For pedestrians, Las Vegas Boulevard did not have a good year last year, but it's not within the resort corridor. It's on the outsides. It's north Las Vegas Boulevard. It's far south Las Vegas Boulevard. So on Las Vegas Boulevard South, when you hit Silverado Ranch, the speed limit is 50 miles an hour.
Ooh.
And 2 tourists lost their lives right there at 50 miles an hour in an area where people who don't live here, they were from Iowa, no expectation that a car was going to come at them at 50 miles an hour. We just need to do better and understand we don't have to get there in breakneck speed. If you want to go fast, get on the freeway. People live in our community, and yet we allow you to fly. I always say with Boulder Highway, at least it says highway in its name. We don't call it Flamingo Highway or Blue Diamond Highway.
Maybe we should.
I know. Blue Diamond Freeway is what we should call it.
Yeah, I live right off that road.
Oh, well, good luck. You know better than anyone then. I get so angry for you because what it does to your quality of life. Would you ever walk to the store if you lived in that neighborhood? Not if you had to cross Blue Diamond Road.
Sometimes my husband will go out of our community, which is just south of Blue Diamond, and he'll go over to the Walgreens at Blue Diamond in Durango or one of the shops right there. And I worry about him even walking over, and I know he's careful.
Yeah.
But he's always watching for approaching traffic and only crossing safely in the marked areas with, the walk sign and all of that. But he's still watching for what's going on around him.
And that's a great lesson to every pedestrian. You have to be vigilant because you can be doing everything right, but if you're not watching, get your head on swivel the entire time you're crossing a street, the person in that car is not going to be the one that dies in that crash. You are. So pay 1,000% attention to your surroundings. Never assume that you're safe just because you have a green light, because you're not.
You're not going to get another chance.
Exactly. Talking with Nick Farisi, who's the captain for Metro, who's totally up in arms about the start that we've had, and thankfully so, to pedestrian safety. And, this whole issue of you can be dead right. That's a fact. You can.
Dead is the main word there.
Exactly. So a lot of times it's human behaviors that pedestrians make because they engage their feet before their brains, and they're the ones that pay. But as you brought up earlier, my heart breaks for those drivers when they have no expectation of someone being in the road and it's dark. Where you live is a great example. Blue Diamond Road, people are traveling on that road at 70 miles an hour.
It's crazy.
It's lit at the intersection, but it's not lit in between the intersections.
No, it gets really dark through there.
Pitch black. Mm-hmm. And in our city, there are places where even though you'll see street lighting, it's still too dark to see a human being. That's why pedestrians have got to make sure that they light themselves up.
I love the idea of the reflective little vests.
Yep.
I was thinking the other day, too, because I'm always thinking, ooh, Erin's coming in. Here's some ideas. I want to take it and I want to have not expensive, but little reflective vests on either side of the crosswalk. Have them hanging there. So if you need to cross the road, put on one of those vests and then leave it on the hook on the other side so that somebody else, or maybe you on the way back.
It's so funny because we've gone round and round about other communities that do programs where they have little flags. You take a flag, and on our streets, I have just not ever been a fan because that little flag is not going to save your life. Reflective vests would help, and I probably shouldn't say this because it's not completely set, but I'm going to anyway. Metro and RTC and our program and Zero Fatalities and Nevada Office of Traffic Safety are all going to be involved very shortly. We're working on it right now. On a program, we're going to try to bring the community and business partners in to help buy some of that stuff.
I would give money for that. Are you kidding?
We're trying to put the whole program together now and be able to announce it at an event that Metro's doing in March. So stay tuned. And if you have business people that want to get involved in that, we'll slap their logos all over things. The light up stuff needs batteries, and eventually those batteries die. The retroreflective stuff, when a headlight hits that retroreflective stuff, it's always going to shine. But if people don't understand what that means, when you see a firefighter and they're showing a firefighter at night and you see that they glow all the stuff that's on those jackets, that's retroreflective material. And pedestrian class, I have bright yellow vests with the retroreflective stripes on them that we hand to people. Partnering with 3M, and 3M gave us a bunch of reflective stuff. That's what it takes. Retroreflective material can be seen at 700 feet away, and that's about the stopping distance you need in our town.
I want to work on those reflective vests, and as far as sponsoring it, those personal injury attorneys that want to sponsor everything.
Yep.
Well,
hello.
I see an opportunity here, as sad as it might be. That's someplace they probably should advertise.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. You could put your name on the back of a vest in retroreflective material. We don't care what it looks like. We just care that it lights up.
As long as it works.
Yeah.
I don't want it to say on somebody's tombstone, it wasn't their fault.
Yeah. Or I have people who come to my class. I ask the question, has anyone ever been hit by a car? Has anyone ever been a driver? And where I normally find out about it is after class when someone tells me that they hit someone. I had someone Friday who had hit a young man, like 24 years old. In class, we use a video and tell a story of a 26-year-old, James Spagnoli, who was struck just west of Durango on Flamingo. He was 6'7" and 240 pounds of solid young muscle. Was absolutely no contest for a car going 45.
No.
And that driver, God bless him, he had no opportunity to know that he was there and couldn't stop in time, and incredibly difficult for that man. So this woman who came up to me after class, the young man that she hit got a cut on his head, and that was it. And he was fine. And the fact that she was in class means that she was in the wrong because she got the ticket. But it happened several months ago, and it's still very, very difficult for her to get behind the wheel of a car.
Oh, yeah.
And certainly to talk about. People don't understand that drivers' lives are frozen for a long time. I've talked to bus drivers that have hit people, totally not their fault. Had to give up being bus drivers. They couldn't do it. Couldn't get behind the wheel of anything.
Oh, it would so mess with you mentally.
It absolutely would. So everybody needs to pay more attention, be vigilant, and for God's sakes, no matter what kind of road user you are, put your phones away. People say to me all the time, well, I see pedestrians crossing the street with their face in their phone. And I say, you're right. That's the worst possible thing they can do. But I see drivers driving 45 miles an hour with their face in their phone, too. That's a particularly deadly combination.
I've got public service announcements running, talking about even a short text.
Yeah.
Which is illegal while you're driving.
Yes.
But although it's a short one. Yeah, you want to know how far your car is going to travel while you take your eyes off the road for what you consider to be just a microsecond? It's not a microsecond.
4.5 seconds. Research shows the average person that's texting, and that's just for part, because they're looking down, they're looking up. But they think that it's a microsecond. 4.5 seconds. At 40 miles an hour, at 66 feet per second, you've traveled a football field's length. And I always say to people, so would you close your eyes and drive a football field's length at 40 miles an hour? And they look at you like, are you insane?
Crazy?
Yeah, that's what you're doing.
The technology that we now have in our cars, we've talked about it before. Erin Breen with us from the Vulnerable Road Users Project here on Talking Solutions. There is so much technology. You mentioned put the phone down. I put it physically in the back seat.
Yes. Yeah.
There's nothing that's going to happen as far as my phone trying to get my attention.
Right.
In the back seat, it's not going to matter until I get to the point where I stop the car. Plus, we've got Bluetooth, so if it's some big emergency, you can actually activate it, which I still wouldn't suggest.
You're still impaired behind the wheel, talking hands-free.
But the technology in our cars is making us less sensitive as drivers. We need to focus.
Absolutely. And people don't understand that it's not just your technology. We're in such a hurry these days. We're eating lunch in the car, people lighting cigarettes, disciplining your children.
That's one of the worst.
It really is. I don't know how we get around that one because Child Protective Services would have to get involved. Just kidding. But, you know, it is one of those realities of life.
It is. The kids are driving you nuts. My mom, years ago in Kansas, after church on a Sunday, there's fighting, and I don't know what was going on. I don't remember, but she's leaning around trying to do some discipline, got pulled over by an officer.
Wow.
Nothing happened, but it caused her to be flagged for, what the heck are you doing, lady?
Probably got her attention, right?
Oh, yeah, we heard about that for long after.
Growing up in Las Vegas, if you've lived here for a long time, like you said, people think they can get across town in 20 minutes. That's how you tell how long people have been here.
Yep.
Years and years ago, we still say 15 minutes, which is just a complete joke. But the other thing that we expect is that traffic is the same as it was. So having grown up here, you have children, and you think, oh, my kid, it's okay. No, it's not. It's a completely different environment. There's so many layers of traffic safety, but they all come down to, no matter what mode of traffic, no matter what topic we're discussing, it does all come back to personal responsibility and understanding that life is fragile and that they aren't numbers. We talk about 100 people, but can you visualize 100 people? Can you understand how many lives those 100 people...
The families, the coworkers, the friends, the neighbors.
Devastation that 100 fatalities causes. I say to people all the time, what would happen if a 747 fell out of the sky twice a week in the United States? What would be changed? And I use as a great example, what happened this summer when there was E. coli in the lettuce?
We pulled all the romaine.
Yes, because maybe someone was going to get sick and someone might potentially die. Why doesn't that equate to how we travel and the stupid positions that we put ourselves in? And we all know it's because we're human, and humans do dumb things, and we never see ourselves in that equation. But boy, is it dangerous not to. So we have a zero fatality goal that obviously we've already blown for 2019. And people say to me all the time, you're never going to reach that goal. And the people who first developed the campaign for this, such a great point. And I say to people all the time, well, so how many people is it okay to die at your house?
Who is expendable.
So if no one you love can die this year, how can we not have a zero fatality goal? But the other thing is, have you ever reached a goal without having a plan? And if you don't have a plan for zero fatalities, and there's so many things now that can help you get there, driving impaired, since you can be impaired by other things now. On your telephone, there's a little button you can push, and for very little money, someone comes and takes you from where you are to home. So why is that even still an issue? But it is. It's still at least a third of our fatalities, if not more.
It's amazing not thinking.
Well, it's never going to be me. Yeah, I've had a couple cocktails, but I'll be fine getting home. I'll be fine crossing that street. I'll be fine blowing that red light. It's never going to be us.
We're talking to you today, Erin Breen, from the Vulnerable Road Users Project, because people aren't fine. People are getting struck, injured, killed, their lives permanently changed, all of that. And you know, on Talking Solutions, we always ask, what can we do to help you?
Well, we touched on it a little bit. I always say to people, the number one thing you can do is to give yourself enough time to get where you're going and be realistic so that you're not tempted to be that idiot that's putting your life and everyone else's in jeopardy. And the other thing I always love to point out about that is that idiot who could have just taken your life, weaving in and out of traffic and driving like a moron, he's at the next red light with you.
Yes.
They haven't gotten anywhere. But as a driver, you can be completely sober. You can put your seatbelt on. So 2017 was off the charts for pedestrians. 2018 was off the charts for motor vehicle occupants in Clark County. Those fatalities rose 42%. And lo and behold, unbelted fatalities also rose 42%. Yeah, what could the correlation be there? So as a driver, be a responsible driver. Put your phone away, wear your seatbelt, be sober, give yourself enough time to get where you're going. As a pedestrian, light yourself up. Wear white or bright clothing in the daytime, and understand at night doesn't matter. You got to have lights on you, reflectors on you, something to give drivers the opportunity to see you. You know, we have laws that keep getting passed, like the 3-foot law for bicyclists, that a lot of people don't understand. If you're approaching a cyclist in a vehicle, you're supposed to pull into the adjacent lane.
Yeah, give them their own lane.
Give them the lane because that's the safest thing for them. And it's not just the space. It's the how close you are at the speeds we allow you to travel that literally that cyclist feels like they're being pulled right off of their bike. And as a bicyclist, again, light yourself up, wear a helmet for heaven's sakes. You know, it's just the silliest little things. We fail to do them, and we had the worst year we've had in a decade decade for traffic fatalities in 2018. Let's change that. Let's have 341 lives saved this year, because that's how many lives we lost last year.
That is a worthwhile goal. I'm thinking of carrying an LED strobe, and anytime I want to cross anywhere, fire that puppy up.
Your phone. My website is pedsafe.vegas. So it's pedsafe.vegas. But there is a product that's free at pedsafe.net, and it puts that bright light on your phone so that you can turn it on. There's a flashlight app, but the PedSafe app actually flashes.
That is a cool idea.
Yeah.
And everybody's got their smartphone anyway, because like the person had referred to with you recently, everybody's looking at their phone. Why don't they just get that free app and then just hold that phone out?
If you're using it as a light, you can't have your face in it.
Yeah.
So it works.
That's a great idea. All the links and everything, of course, on the Talking Solutions Facebook page, along with the podcast of our interview. Erin Breen from the Vulnerable Road Users Project, please.
I'm coming back about Vision Zero.
I want you coming back anytime, because you bring us common sense and wisdom and give us the opportunity to think about what we're doing.
Yeah, save your life. That's the bottom line. That's why I love this job.
I want you to work yourself out of your job.
I do too. And it's funny, the people that you actually connect with that you know get it, they get it forever, which is why I love that court class. Can't tell you the number of people who I run into in different places, and they go, I took your class last year, and they tell me whatever it was that they did that they have not done again.
I enjoyed your class. I learned so much. I'm never coming back.
Exactly.
Good. That would be a win.
I used to tell teenagers, I'm a really nice person. Your parents don't want to meet me.
No, they don't. But we want you here anytime. Erin Breen,
Thanks so
Vulnerable Road Users Project. So appreciate you joining us here on Talking Solutions.
I appreciate you having me.
Come back soon.
I will.